Does this look like a man who could star in a big budget action film? No, definitely not. Except he did. Sort of. Allow me to explain. Windy City Heat isn't just a movie. It's perhaps the most elaborate prank ever committed to film. The movie itself presents a bit of a moral quandary, an ethics professor's wet dream, if you will. It's also one of the funniest things that Comedy Central has ever produced, and they don't want you to see it. This is Perry Caravello, aka Scary Perry, aka the Scaremaster. A distinct-looking character from the suburbs of Chicago, Illinois, you might recognize him from Austin Powers' Goldmember, where he played prison inmate number 2, as well as various other roles from the 1990s and early 2000s. Perry's distinct look and unmistakable bravado made him a standout as an extra. He looks like if Slash had an anvil dropped on his head. But Perry wanted more than a background part in movies. He wanted to be a star, but he wasn't going to take the traditional path to stardom. No, far from it. Perry was, for all intents and purposes, discovered at the Comedy Store during an open mic night in Westwood by comedians Don Barris and Tony Barbieri, the latter of whom disguised himself as an oblivious stoner by the name of Walter Mole Malinsky. Together, this trio of goofballs formed a comedy troupe called The Big Three. They were the Three Stooges of the new millennium. Only Perry wasn't in on most of the jokes. For instance, back in the 90s, Perry was promised a spot on stage at the Comedy Store if he would shave his chest, with no shaving cream. Despite the hairy Italian genetics that made his chest into a shag carpet, Perry was so committed that he cut through that bush like a machete-wielding safari goer and earned a spot on stage. He would do anything for a gasp of airtime, and his so-called friends knew it. In 2003, it was time to up the ante. Barris and Barbieri, along with a litany of big names like Jimmy Kimmel, Adam Carolla, and Bobcat Goldthwait, had devised an elaborate plot to trick Perry into thinking he had accomplished his lifelong dream of becoming a movie star.
I'll do anything to be an actor, anything to be a star. A star more than an actor. A star. I'll do anything to be a star.
Here's the setup. Caravello is taken to an audition for a neo-noir film called Windy City Heat, where he'll read for the part of Chicago sports detective Stone Fury, a private dick hired to find out who stole William the Refrigerator Perry's refrigerator.
I feel that the role of Stone Fury was specifically written for me.
Caravello, of course, wins the role over names like Robert De Niro, Harrison Ford, and Carson Daly. The movie within the movie is a complete ruse. It's a prank where everyone, save for Perry himself, is in on the joke. Stephen Hyden, who wrote a piece on the film for Grantland back in 2013, called it The Truman Show in Reverse. The main character is an average man situated inside a fabricated reality that perpetuates the illusion that he's in the process of becoming a celebrity, as opposed to a celebrity who's led to believe that he's an average man. There's the overarching prank, there's the fact that Perry is an abjectly terrible actor, and there's a series of smaller gags throughout.
I don't know, I can...
Cut! We're ready, Bob! No, we're not! No, we are not! Get rid of that red band!
Right. Moments where Perry is made to dive into a dumpster, drink a disgusting blended concoction of Chinese food, pizza, and beer, and tricked into undressing for a gay costume designer, played by Mr. Show and SpongeBob's Tom Kenny.
What production is this?
Windy City here.
Oh,
This is
I'm
Windy
sorry,
City.
let me...
Perry's a gay man!
There are a number of recognizable names peppered throughout the cast. Director Bobcat Goldthwait, who insists on speaking into his bullhorn at all times. Dane Cook, who plays a producer named Roman Polanski.
Good to see you.
Can I shake your hand?
Oh, yeah, pleasure. Just getting over a little poison oak here.
Okay. Oh.
Sorry about that.
Adam Carolla, working on a movie called Air Caligula on the same lot. And King of the Hill's Toby Huss, who plays photographer Ansel Adams. The job of the cast is tricky. They have to keep up the charade of this Fugazi film while constantly badgering Perry until he blows his lid, which, admittedly, is not that difficult a task. Take for instance when Mole nearly sabotages the entire production of Windy City Heat when he knocks over a table of American snack food delicacies, laid out by the producers to impress their Japanese financier, Hiroshima Nagasaki.
The movie is over!
It's hard to decide whether Hiroshima Nagasaki is the most racistly named character in this movie, but it's a close call between him and entertainment lawyer Saul Steinbergowitz. It's hard not to laugh when Perry is so often riled up to his boiling point, but every gut-busting moment is shadowed by a nagging pang of guilt. This movie is so goddamn fucking funny that it's easy to suspend all morality for 90 minutes, but a more thorough reflection may evoke the old conscience. Windy City Heat is ethically dubious at best, and at worst, it's an evil trick on a disabled man. Let's back up. In 1974, Perry moved with his family from Chicago to Southern California. Just 3 weeks after getting his license, he was injured in a car accident that left him in a coma for 3 weeks and caused brain trauma. There's really no way to know who Perry would have been if he hadn't been in that accident, but it doesn't take a neurologist to correlate potential brain damage with serious rage and mood swings that occur at the drop of a hat. Whether the accident is the culprit of Perry's delusions of stardom and complete and utter lack of awareness is another matter entirely. When asked by Hayden about the movie's mean-spirited nature, Tony Barbieri rationalized it, saying, "Perry's a pretty terrible person." And sure, you can be disabled and also a terrible person. Just look at Mr. Beast. I refuse to elaborate any further. As for Perry, the charge that he's an awful human being may or may not be true. Perry's an opportunist, he's a misogynist, and he's homophobic, even for 20 years ago.
I'm not a fag. I'm homophobic. I hate fags.
But does the character of a disabled man make him fair game for a hilarious but objectively mean-spirited prank? Vulture writer K. Thor Jensen defends the movie, saying, "That's where most modern pranking falls flat. The victim is essentially unimportant, robbed of context or agency. They're transformed from an unwilling participant to simply an unwilling audience member. And we all know how much unwilling audience members appreciate comedy. Their agency is what makes the shock of the prank potent. Without a great victim, a prank has no real power." On this level, Jensen is right. While professional YouTube pranksters think the height of comedy is stepping on a black man's shoes in the hood gone sexual, a good prank involves a little more nuance, a little more dramatic irony. To the credit of the filmmakers, Perry's own shortcomings befall a lot of the humor. But that doesn't erase the fact that we're watching the wool pulled over the eyes of a man who's very clearly a few cards short of a full deck. Ultimately, not to fall back on the crutch of moral relativism, but that's not for some dickhead doing a video essay to decide. The movie places Perry in scenarios that expose his prejudices, but they also dig into his clearly damaged psyche. For example, Don and Mole frequently bring up an alleged incident in 1992 where Perry traded sexual favors with a casting director in exchange for a role in a movie.
Look, it happened once when I first got into this business, and I didn't do nothing but let him suck my dick and jerk him off. That was it.
Through a post-Me Too lens in 2023, Perry's certainly the victim in this scenario. But in 2003, he's treated as the butt of an ironic joke, an admitted homophobe coerced into homosexual acts. Like a lot of late-night talk show hosts in the last decade, Jimmy Kimmel has adopted something of a new approach, forsaking comedy for advocacy. In the unrelenting culture wars of the last decade, Kimmel has devoted monologues to anti-gun, anti-Trump, and anti-Fox News rhetoric. It's well within a talk show host's rights as a talk show host to espouse any of his or her beliefs, but it's opened up Kimmel to, perhaps, some well-earned criticism. Kimmel has appeared in blackface, which you're only allowed to do if you're the Prime Minister of Canada. He also joked about assaulting women, and back to the point I'm trying to make, he produced a movie that, one could argue, turns a mentally disabled man into a laughingstock.
And listen, I don't care what you had to do. Whatever he had to do, gay, not gay, it doesn't matter. He did what he had to do to get in the film. And I applaud it.
Whether or not they should admit any wrongdoing, no one else involved with the film has made a career out of nightly televised sanctimony. Can't we just go back to the days of Ed McMahon getting drunk every night and Craig Ferguson interviewing hot C-list actresses at 2:30 in the morning? What the fuck has happened to television? What's happened to this country? At the end of the film, Kimmel appears at a gala to honor Perry at the premiere of Windy City Heat. The so-called president of show business hands Perry a trophy, who breaks down sobbing as a crowd full of actors shower a hoodwinked man with backhanded applause. Perry says earlier in the movie that he wants to become a star, not just an actor. And in a way, Perry gets his wish. At no point does Perry understand that he's the victim of a very elaborate prank. Even in the DVD extras, when Dawn, Mole, and Perry watch Windy City Heat in its entirety, including the opening titles when the premise of the joke is revealed to the audience. It's possible that Perry is blissfully stupid, or that a part of his brain short-circuits whenever he's confronted with the truth of his situation. Either way, he's the subject of a deeply psychological character study. Comedy Central aired Windy City Heat on October 12, 2003, and then never again. This movie is a certified cult classic, like The Big Lebowski or The Waco Massacre. It's also a favorite of actress Saoirse Ronan, which I found out from the movie's lone piece of IMDb trivia. The spectacle of the effort and coordination put in to make this human rat maze is to be admired, but you can't help but wonder if the end result is any different than disabling Stephen Hawking's brakes and pushing him down a hill. I will never not laugh at this movie, but in exchange, I'll probably go to hell. And it's a fair trade.